Right, folks, well, this is the review that absolutely no one was waiting for, but the Foxy Stoats have pleaded, they have begged, they have prodded, and they have basically strapped me to a chair and basically peeled my eyelids open and forced me to watch this film. And it's going to surprise absolutely no one that I really didn't like it. It's not a great film, folks. I don't really know what to say. I do love the occasional shit film, and there are times where, I think the critics have got me absolutely dead wrong, but I'm sorry to say, folks, this is not one of those times. It really, really isn't. The real shame as well. A real shame, because there were moments to this film that I did enjoy. There were moments of this film that, did make me laugh, make me chuckle. It just didn't outweigh the stupid, basically. It didn't outweigh the head-scratching sort of writing, the plot with the gaping holes in it. This was not an enjoyable experience, to say the least, and it's a real shame. I mean, first of all, I'm not going to have a go at this young child actor. I hate the Home Alone franchise in the sense that all of these child actors have basically been put in the most unwinnable situation imaginable, in that they're basically going to be measured and compared to what was effectively a child prodigy, a young boy with a massive amount of talent, a massive amount of charisma, a massive amount of emotional projection. The great Macaulay Culkin, who even to this day has grown up Culkin, past that 40 mark. He's a very lovable chap, and plenty of stories to tell, and doing a lot of incredible projects, but peaked in popularity at this time with this Christmas film. Was putting a lot of work in with Uncle Buck and the Good Child. And you just can't compare these young kids who probably have never been in a situation like this in their entire lives. I mean, Macaulay Culkin did quite a few films before he did Home Alone. You just can't compare them to him. And to this little boy's credit, the old Archie Yates, who played Max Mercer, I thought some of the jokes actually landed. He portrayed the character quite well, and he came across as a bit of a sadistic fuck near the end, and there wasn't a lot of development for the character, but he did his part fine. He's fine. It'd be interesting to see if this is sort of a launch pad for this young man, and hopefully he'll be in a lot better films in the future. Good luck to him, and hey, enjoy the limelight. Not every kid gets to be in a high budget sort of movie, especially a movie of this calibre. This was an adapted script from the late John Hughes, so the pedigree was there. I mean, I think the key word here is adapted, because the poor guy died in 2009, and there are quite a lot of modern day elements, a lot of modern technology involved in this film, so I'm sure a lot of this script was done and reworded. I mean, this is where the film basically shit the bed for me. This is where the key element of this film sort of went down the crapper. I mean, bear in mind Home Alone, the home invasion shit and all the traps and the hijinks, it didn't sort of happen until the third act, effectively. I mean, this was really a story in the perspective of a young child who was left home alone and left to the elements, and albeit in a absolutely huge, great big mansion house. He's alone, he's fraught with terror and sort of the realisation that there's no one there to sort of be his crutch, and he goes absolutely apeshit. He screams, he bellows, he eats all the candy he ever wants, he basically smashes shit up, he has fun, he watches horror films, but ultimately in the end, after all the immature bullshit he puts himself through, he matures. He sort of fast tracks himself into maturity somewhat. He sort of faces his fears. He goes into the basement and sort of like realises he has to do the laundry, so he goes into the basement and sort of fends off the sort of the imaginary boiler monster that sort of gets him all scared and wild up. He basically just grows out of that very quickly. He looks after himself, he cleans himself, he used his stolen mum's credit card to buy the groceries, but he had to go get groceries. He fed himself, he cooked his own meals, cleaned. House was absolutely immaculate when the mother eventually came back. He found himself basically living alone and fended off two highly skilled fucking burglars in the process. And Hank and Marv are highly skilled. I mean, they have come up with this theme to do a neighbourhood robbery. Like they've literally planned all this. So they're sort of high-end sort of robbers, really. And this young lad was in real danger. When they invaded his home, they were going to likely sort of put him through insignificant harm. They were probably going to bind him and tie him up and steal all his shit, and that was the least of his fucking worries. This film doesn't have any of that. There's no coming of age. The young lad has his moment and sort of freaks out and does some silly shit, but ultimately he's still the same spoilt little knobhead he was at the beginning. The home invaders are sort of effectively baby faces, which is a wrestling term for good guys. They basically found themselves in a horrible situation where the father is homeless, he's jobless, excuse me, and they're forced to sort of sell their family home. Eventually they find themselves in a situation where the young lad has allegedly stolen a high value item. This porcelain doll with a manufacturing error, the head is put on upside down. Some silly twat is selling the same doll on eBay for hundreds of thousands of pounds, and he immediately thinks, holy shit, that's an expensive item, that could save all our problems. But out of spite, this young boy has stolen the doll and taken it home with him, because he dared to not give him a soda. Basically, they were having an open viewing of the house where they were selling it, and he was there sort of mocking the man for having a doll collection, and the man refused to give him a soda, and apparently that was a reason for him to hate him and steal his doll. Although it turned out he didn't steal it. It's just silly pandering bollocks. It was just silly. But yeah, I mean, already there's a massive plot hole, because just because an item is on eBay for hundreds of thousands of pounds doesn't mean it's worth hundreds of thousands of pounds. But yeah, it's a strange premise, and there's so many ways to sort of approach the problem without having to break into the kid's house. And they don't think he's home alone, mind you. They think he's with a guardian, a grandmother who just so happens to be German. They could easily have just knocked on the door and, sort of spoken to this person, but they choose not to. They choose to break into the house, and it's weird. It's just sad. I mean, the people that break into this kid's house, they are allegedly educated people. The man is unemployed, but he was a head of an IT department. I'm assuming he has a computer science degree, and the woman is a teacher. The one thing that sort of threw people off was that Archie Yates and the beautiful Aisling Blee playing Carol Mercer. If anyone doesn't know who Aisling Bee is, she's an Irish comedian, very, very funny lady. And she's putting on this fucking strange accent. She's channeling like Rachel Yates, but yeah, it didn't work at all. It sort of made me sort of scratch my head and wonder why the fuck she's doing it. And it dawned on me, really. I know exactly why they were doing it, because they're English. If they were American and someone was trying to invade their home, you'd probably shoot him, right? And who cares if he's fucking 9? And if he can work out the PIN number to her card, he'll probably figure out the PIN number to the gun safe and shoot him dead. So the fact that they're English almost sort of eliminates that problem. Oh, they're English, so they don't have a gun. So there you go. But yeah, I mean, this film is rotten. It wasn't particularly very good. I mean, the one thing that there was a highlight, and one thing that people would want to watch this film for was the traps, was the torture devices, the saw-like mechanisms that make and encompass a Home Alone film. They were pretty damn good. Now, I will say, out of the two protagonists played by a man and a woman, man being Rob Delaney, came across as the Paul Will Ferrell in this film, and Ellie Kemper from The Office USA fame. I honestly thought that the bloke was going to get the worst of it. I mean, he's going to get absolutely bludgeoned and beaten and battered, and he did. And I just thought Ellie Kemper was going to get, her hair messed up, basically, and, her makeup frazzled, and, she wasn't going to get near enough punishment as the man. She got, folks. I mean, there were some nasty fucking traps, and I think the bloke probably did get the worst of it, but fuck me. Ellie Kemper got hers in. she got some horrific shit done to her, and it was bad. And it was almost, I mean, the first one was like a soda mint sort of contraption. Like, he was getting soda torpedoes thrown at her, and it looked pretty silly. But after that, it gets fucking nasty. That was almost like a warm up, and it was fun. That was probably the best part of the film, if I'm honest. Even though it made the Max Mercer character looked like an absolute sadistic fuck, even if it was a misunderstanding. He thought he was getting kidnapped. He nearly killed these guys. He definitely would have killed these guys 4 or 5 times over in real life. The sadistic meter was peaked at this. It really was. Like the sadomasochist in me was happy at the very least. The cameo we all wanted from Macaulay Culkin did not happen. Instead, we did get a return to the acting world from Devon Ratnery, played Kevin McAllister's brother, Buzz. And I hate this American trope where they just make this character out to be an absolute loser and a failure, but they actually have an outstanding job. In this case, Buzz McAllister character ended up being a policeman or a sheriff's deputy. You know, that's a job of, you know, probably pays reasonably well, has a level of high responsibility, and he's basically portrayed as an absolute cock and a doofus, which always annoys the fuck out of me, to be honest with you. As far as I'm concerned, anybody who ends up with that level of responsibility, you know, has become a success, in my opinion. I think the worst part of it was that we find out that Kevin McAllister, Macaulay Culkin's character, ended up being a home invasion alarm operator, or installer, or salesman. He sells burglar alarms, basically. He's his own line of burglar alarms. It's his own company, but ultimately he sells burglar alarms. And for me, that it's so void of imagination. It kind of kills off the character, in my opinion. Like he came up with all this wacky, insane shit. He thwarted these 2 burglars. These fucking nasty pieces of work that would have fucked him over. I mean, one of them was played by John Pesci. He was in the Goodfellas. I mean, if that character was in the film, and there'll be a lot more effing and blinding, and there'll be a lot more gunshots. He thwarted dangerous people in the first and second film, and he ends up being a burglar alarm guy. You know, it's almost like life beat him. Like he just beat him down, and he couldn't get over the trauma of this home invasion. One thing I will say about this film, it had the right ambience, like the Christmas theme. It looked pretty. One highlight, I know it's a bit fucking silly to say, but the beautiful, amazing Aisling Bay. I can't even say her name. It's probably some Irish name, but she's fit as fuck. Whatever. And the scene is, she's basically having an argument with her brother, and she's realised that she's left her son behind. She's in Tokyo, and she's having an argument with her brother. But, she thinks that it's his fault she was left behind. And you see in the background this giant Toblerone bar. I don't know if Americans are aware of what Toblerones are, but there's basically this giant sort of... I mean, they're basically sort of like Swiss chocolates formed into a triangle shape with nugget pieces in them. She's bought like quite a few of these like sort of gimmicky giant Toblerones, and she fucking launched one of these fucking giant chocolates at this bloke like full force. I mean, must have fucking hurt. I mean, the box was bent, so I'm assuming the box was empty. I mean, if that box had the chocolate in, fuck me, you're talking broken bones. And it kind of says a lot, but that's sort of a highlight. But I mean, bringing the mother into it, one of the interesting plights of the first film was you saw how frantic the mother was. She was sort of almost in hysterics, almost. And she catches a flight from Paris to America, and she can't get a connecting flight to her home state, and she ends up having an awkward car journey with this sort of a beast man played by John Candy. He's part of a folk band, and she has to endure the nasty music. And he's a lovely man, but she's clearly uncomfortable around him, and she has to sort of endure this very long journey with this man that she's obviously doesn't like. And it's a shame because he's given her this sort of offer of a lift, and there's no strings attached or anything like that. He's doing it out of the goodness of his heart, but you can sort of feel the tension. They're not connecting in any way. She feels uncomfortable in that situation, but she's putting herself through it to get back to her son. And she gets there, the house is immaculate, they have this awkward moment where they sort of see each other on Christmas Day, and they end up hugging it out, and it's lovely. It's a wonderful moment. You don't fucking get that in this film. Not at all. She gets a flight in the end after being very rude to the air stewardess, I will say. She ends up on a flight, and she's sat next to this man, a man who does look like he's a relation of mine, definitely an older brother. This man's crime, this faux pas, this thing that makes her so uncomfortable is that he keeps staring at her screen. That's it. And it's like it's a bit of a funny, slightly funny moment, I guess. But all he's doing is staring at her screen. And he's a fuck ugly man. I mean, he looks like me, the poor bastard. But he's not doing anything wrong other than staring at her screen, and that's enough to make her uncomfortable and freak out. And yeah, okay, he ends up falling asleep on her shoulder. It's not really anything to moan about, really. I mean, she's stuck in a flight with an ugly and uncomfortable man. Okay, fine. He's not really interacting with her in any way. He's just staring at a screen, and that's enough to even remote any screen time. And she meets up with her son, and yeah, they have a hug and whatnot. He ends up staying at the home invader's house. I mean, could you imagine that? Could you imagine the first film when Kevin basically hugs it out with the fucking the burglars, and they just end up having tea and eggnog and Christmas dinner around their house? It just fucking blows my mind. Blows my fucking mind. But anyway, she meets up with him, they hug it out, and the house is an absolute shit tit. The kids learn absolutely nothing, but everyone gets a happy ending. Yeah, it all works out in the end. Bim bam wallop, fantastic. Everything's hunky-dory. Yeah, it just felt like a tremendous waste of my time, and the only good thing about it is, yes, it looks pretty. It's a Christmas movie through and through. The decorations and the feel and the actual score is great. It's on theme, and yeah, the Crusaders and the traps are there, and yes, for 10 minutes or so, they are fucking brutal. They will make you happy. Oh, and Keegan Thompson from Keegan and Kel fame is in this film, so that's a plus. Aside from that, nah, it's not great. It's worth more than the 16% on Rotten Tomatoes that it currently holds, but it's still a Rotten Tomato, I would say. I mean, if you're forced to watch it, it's not the end of the world. I can't imagine your children want to watch this. I mean, this has really been made to sort of appeal to my generation. They're the kids in their 30s who just so happen to sort of watch this. It's to pique their interest. It's so they can flick it on and maybe get their kids engaged in something they enjoyed when they were little. But trust me, just put Home Alone on. Don't put this shit on. Don't encourage nostalgia, folks. Especially nostalgia that doesn't warrant a revisit. I mean, this was a tired out formula long before this film turned up, and it really wasn't worth a revisit at all. But hey, you all knew that shit. You just wanted to put me through it and watch me suffer, didn't you, you fat cunt? Anyway, I'm gonna forget this ever happened, drink some eggnog, and think of beautiful Irish ladies until I fall asleep. But until then, you have a pleasant evening, folks. Take care, enjoy yourselves, and have a good Christmas. That's what it's all about. See you soon.